Tobias, obviously, before we actually thought we were going to be talking to you, we were going to start off with Rwanda, but I think we've now got to start off with Simon Clarke. Clearly, writing in the Telegraph, we understand. We haven't seen all of it, but he says this: we have a clear choice, stick with Rishi Sunak, take the inevitable electoral consequences and give the left a blank cheque to change Britain as they see fit, or we can change leader and give our country and party a fighting chance. What do you make of it?
I mean, this is ridiculous. I think so many parliamentarians, party members, and indeed the nation will be shocked to listen to Simon Clarke and what he is saying. We just had a briefing last week by Isaac Levido, the pollster guru now working in Number 10, that showed that there is everything to play for. 25% of the polls show that people haven't made up their mind yet. All the difference, therefore, for us to show unity, to move forward. Statecraft has returned to Number 10 under Rishi Sunak. We've managed to get that difficult Rwanda bill through. Let's press forward. Let's show some discipline. Let's, I think, exhibit the fact that we want to take this election seriously. I hope very quickly the parliamentarians, my colleagues, will line up to dismiss what Simon is doing, which I'm finding very, very sad indeed. And it perhaps underlines the absence of the focus of where some colleagues on the right of the party wish to take the party at the moment. If we're going to have a debate about where the party goes on the flip side of an election, so be it. But right now, there should be one mission alone, and that's to win the next general election.
But what is the mission that Rishi Sunak is fighting for, though? Because, he talks about Rwanda and stopping the boats. He asked the Lords not to interfere, which was probably a step too far for a lot of people, because the Lords have got the right to do whatever due diligence they wish to do. But they've now taken a step back and said, well, we're going to kick it into the long grass for a couple of months. So, again, you're not going to really have any kind of decision on Rwanda until possibly you come back after Easter. So that's a long time in a year when you're supposed to be having an election, isn't it?
You're right. There's no doubt about it that we've got a difficult challenge ahead to get this bill through, but we're persevering. And what was supposed to be a difficult week ended up going in the right direction for the government. But you ask yourself, where are we going? Fiscal discipline has returned to Number 10. We're now showing that inflation is coming down. We're proving that as well. We've got a March budget coming up with, I'm sure, some exciting policies that are going to be in Britain's interests. That's what we should be rallying for, is continuing this return, a rekindling statecraft into Number 10. And that comes with discipline. It absolutely comes with discipline. We need to demonstrate to the British people that we're serious about continuing as a Conservative government. And if we don't do that, firstly, we hog the headlines and therefore people don't even understand what Labour stands for, but we then gift the election to our opposition without them doing any work at all. That cannot be right. And it certainly isn't something that, as I say, fellow parliamentarians will be wanting to pursue. I suspect there'll be very little support for Simon Clarke, regardless of the individual policies that he may be wishing to pursue.
Well, he's associated, is he not, with PopCon, which is launching itself on the great British public sometime at the beginning of February. And he's going to be one of the, we are told, 100 or so Tory MPs who want to take back the Tory party from the people who have betrayed it. There's people who are no longer Conservatives, and they would probably accuse you of being one of them.
Well, the trouble is, if you remove people like me from the Conservative Party, then you move more to the right, and we lose that broad church appeal, which is absolutely required to win the general election. You've studied these polls. You've seen so many elections. The sweet spot in British politics and the electorate is that middle ground. And Tony Blair, who looked like the Tory, demonstrated that he could then hog the middle ground and he'll win. When parties go to their extremes, such as Jeremy Corbyn, no chance of winning that general election. When we go to our extreme, no chance. The big hitters, the big beasts that have done so well in our party's history are the ones that have gone for that centre-right ground, but taking the base with them. Absolutely important that you don't forget, your ideology, what you stand for, but ultimately you appeal to the general electorate. And we won't do that if we go to our extreme.
But one of the things that you might have referred to as extreme back in the day of 2019, I remember it well, was Boris Johnson's win in December of 2019, one of the biggest wins the Tory party had had over Jeremy Corbyn, based very much on what you would call something more than centre-right, which was to leave the European Union. And, you know, that was a big victory. And you might have said at that point that that was what the right of the party wanted, not what your side of the party wanted.
No, I wouldn't agree with that analysis. It's what the nation voted for, whether it be Labour or Conservatives. That was the majority support. And I absolutely respect that. My concern, if you want to go down this, this rabbit hole, which is difficult for any party and indeed the country, is what have we done to take advantage of Brexit? Have we got the best economic relationship with our biggest trading partner? And I think most people, if they're honest, would answer, no, we haven't. We could do much, much better than the deal we've currently got. I work particularly closely with the defence aerospace companies based across Britain that build these international, run these international procurement projects, finding it very difficult to do business on the continent and indeed elsewhere because of the economic limitations that are entwined in our Brexit deal. We could do much better than this, but there's no impetus to do so.
Meanwhile, in the Middle East, there's a big problem. There's still a war going on in Ukraine. There's all sorts of trouble in Iran, in the neighbouring states of Syria, of Afghanistan, still of Pakistan. Rishi Sunak says that Britain will continue to fire missiles at the Houthis, but the Houthis seem to think that they can just continue to do what they want. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. Where does the Houthis get their military equipment from? It's from Iran. It is limited in stocks, but they're high caliber. And it wasn't all going to be done in one sortie overnight on the 11th of January. It will take a number of missions, not least because we're continuing to gather intelligence. And that's why there was a further strike a couple nights ago. When the Houthis stop hitting ships, international shipping in the Red Sea, then that mission will temporarily close down, I'm sure. But it's absolutely right that Britain steps forward as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council to join with our allies and protect international shipping. I'll make it very clear, and I'm sure you understand this, that if we don't, who does step forward? Who will then take advantage of the void in patrolling our international waters? And the consequence to the British taxpayer and indeed to the economy here is that it'll hit inflation because our gas comes from Qatar. And if it has to reroute around Africa, that will cost, and the prices of energy will go up in the UK, affecting all British citizens and British families.
Yeah, I understand that. But we'll have to talk about it some more, Tobias, because we're out of time, unfortunately. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us. There's so much to do and so much going on.